So, you know, you've obviously been in the industry for a long time. You know, what are and we both mutually, believe we love the industry. What are some of the things you dislike about the industry besides when you're doing snow and not being able to leave on a Saturday to go spend time with your wife?
You know, it does become a lot. Like I said, it is pretty. I guess I've used the term cutthroat as far as it's disappointing when you have like a customer interaction where you'll bid a job and you bid a job when you know what you need to make on a job because you know how much this costs and that costs and you know where your dollar rate should be, and you bid a job knowing that I'm not making a giant profit on this, but I'm definitely covering costs and I'm making a little bit, which is where we need to be.
Yeah.
And the customer will say something like, well, the guy that did it last year did it way cheaper. And it's like, well, where is he?
Yeah.
He's completely out of business, and we know he's out of business, but it's like the bar just keeps getting dropped down because of that.
Yeah.
And so, and I think it's definitely increasing. I mean, I believe for a long time that we're skilled labor. We're no different than, a plumber, an electrician. Landscapers don't really have that, we don't have that trade status yet. And I think that's really where we need to push, because when that happens, that's what's happened in all those industries. You know how much you have to pay a plumber an hour. You know how much you have to pay an electrician an hour.
Yeah.
And I think landscape really needs to get there because we have to do so much, and maybe we don't have some of the inherent danger of like maybe an electrician has with, working with power, but that doesn't mean we don't have inherent danger with working with machines and using them properly. Plumbing, we work with irrigation and things like that. So it's very similar. And so I think the professionalism, it's not, obviously it's not everybody, but there are some people that are definitely out there just, doing it for something to do. And that's fine, but they kind of hurt the industry a little bit.
No, listen, let's not sugarcoat it. They hurt the industry a lot. There's a couple things I want to unwrap. First, the getting seen as skilled labor, and secondly, don't let me forget. I kind of want to talk about how you crushed your leg in the Bobcat, right? But so let's start with the skilled labor thing. So I work for a builder, and I'll tell you, I'm going to share a story with you that it's a pet peeve of mine. So, because we're so heavy in snow removal at Langton, and I have all these skid steers and front end loaders and backhoes, we can do things that other landscapers can't do because I have all the stuff to push snow with, So I can't tell you how many builders I've worked for, and they get let down by their excavator. And then they'll call and they're like, hey, can you give me a price? I need this dirt moved off this lot so we can do this or whatever. Okay. And we do it. And I'll charge them $150 an hour. And they'll call me and they'll go, hey, I think there must be something wrong. That's what my excavator charges me. And I go,
yeah.
Well, yeah, I did the same thing your excavator does. Well, yeah, but you're unskilled labor.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, nothing pisses me off more. I mean, not only do we have the same equipment they have, but we actually were able to fix the problem. There has to be a value in problem fixing. Not even problem solving. Like their problem was there's dirt on our lot. We need it off. We fixed the problem. I should have double charged them because I could actually allocate the equipment for them. I never understand it. And I think the reason it happens is there's not enough people like you and I that are willing to just be upset about it or say like, this is ridiculous. There's so many people that are just like, that'll actually apparently, because this has to be, this is the only thing I can think of, that would say, oh, okay, well, I get it. Well, what do you think I'm worth? Okay, pay me that then. It's about getting people to understand their worth, because it's the same work, and then look at you, when you look at the risks. So it's like, explain how you crushed your leg in that Bobcat.
So it was a long time ago, but I think I was probably 19 years old. And we were moving potted plants around in a nursery in the wintertime, getting it set up to do a Christmas tree operation. And I needed a knife or something, and the guy that was operating it had it. And so I stepped up on top of I was up on the bars, the foot bar, and he was handing me something. And when he accidentally pressed the boom to come down. Bobcats used to have a plate like between the load arm and that, there wasn't much room before that. Now it's like tubes. So basically my ankle got crushed into itself. I was held by the 3,000 pounds of pressure just by basically my ankle being pinched by the machine. So that, it basically compacted my calcaneus bone, which is your heel bone. And then, I had a lot of atrophy from my Achilles tendon shortening up and all kinds of things came from it. So not good. I feel it every time the weather changes now. I can feel it in that left heel. So
that's a terrible story. So what did they do to rebuild it then? I mean,
nothing.
It's just, okay, it's crushed. It is what it is.
Yes.
Heal, and that's it.
Yes. So I
thought maybe you had some bionic ankle or something,
No. So no, nothing really happens with that one. No.
Yeah. Well, so are there some, I always like to talk about some mentors, so do you have any people looking back on? I mean, you obviously worked for different companies, had different experiences. You have any great mentors that you kind of had?
Yeah. There was a guy, Tim Holbert, that I worked for, back in the day, and he was kind of the, behind the Brickman Bible there. And you had a horticulture degree from Michigan State. He also spoke fluent Spanish, so that helped with some of the workers that we had from time to time. And, I learned quite a bit from him, and it was one of those things, looking back, you didn't really realize how much you learned from him. And you didn't always like the way you were taught, but you were definitely learning things.
Yeah.
And then I really got into, I learned quite a bit of the chemical side of thing as far as, weed control and some of the things you can do with some of these products. There's a guy that works that I constantly call Mark McCoy from Harrell's. And he's just a wealth of knowledge for me. And so it's just people like that are excited about the industry and solving problems kind of thing that really set it apart. And my current manager at Michigan State University is very, very knowledgeable and just kind of energetic and, excited about things. So that helps too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you said you were in business for yourself for a little while, right?
Yeah.
All right. So how long was that, and what caused you to change that path?
So it's 2008 during the recession.
Oh, so terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first year I had as much mowing. Actually, the company that I left and then I started my own business gave me all of the mowing. So I had all their mowing maintenance. So I had as much mowing maintenance as I wanted. And then I had some landscape jobs I was doing as well. It's pretty funny how the world goes. It's actually 4 houses down from me now, from where I live now, is one of the landscape jobs I did when I had my own company. So it's still there. It was a tiered boulder wall by a pool. And, it came that thing, and you said it, you mentioned it earlier, where if you're not the person there doing it, like if Josh isn't there taking care of the lawn or Josh isn't there putting the mulch in, customer's always upset. I could come there and do the same exact work as the people that worked, for me, and there'd be no problem at all. But then, if somebody, I don't like the way that this was done or that was done, and like every single time, and it's just, I didn't have the business acumen to figure out how to get off the machine and sell more jobs. And it just kind of, it was dawn to dusk every single night, and it just wasn't working. So I basically I actually met somebody that used to work for another company, and they started a lawn division, and we kind of merged almost together. And we had a pretty big corporate contract that helped us expand a lot. And we did that for a number of years until that kind of fell by the wayside too. So it's like it's boom or bust. It always seems, you get that one big contract and you're rolling really well. That goes away, and it's like, how do we fill the hole?
Yeah. So you would think I trapped you into this, but you just kind of stepped right into it. So it's awesome. Why do you think that company was so willing to give you all of their mowing?
Well, mowing's mowing, you can think about mowing in a couple different ways. Like mowing's a loss leader. So you can go in there and you can make, yeah, we might not be making a ton of money, but we're gonna do the mulch, we're gonna do the installs, we're gonna do all those other things. Or more, it can be like you could actually have it be profitable. So when I took over that mowing division, when I worked for that company, I think we were operating at a 33% loss. And in the first year, we were at a 10% profit. So it kind of like we turned into, you can make it profitable if you're routed correctly, if you're doing the right spots, and if you're charging enough.
Yeah.
But mowing can also be an absolute headache.
Yeah.
You can make tons of money doing sidewalks, probably more money than plowing if you were just a single contractor or a guy on your own.
Yeah.
But
nobody wants to do sidewalks because
nobody wants to do sidewalks. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So mowing, it could be that loss leader. It can get you some of those other jobs. It can be profitable if it's done right, or it could be a constant headache where you're ticking off a customer every single week just because you're never going to meet their expectations.
Yes.
And then they give you a bad review, and it's tough. But there's an art to it, and there's a science to it, and there's definitely skill and talent in doing it. It's just now it's tough, because it can also bring a lot of problems.
Yeah. So obviously everybody that listens to the podcast knows why I'm so passionate about robotics, and literally the what you just said is why I'm so passionate about it, because what I've always found is, yes, big companies lose money on mowing. Some are 3%, some make 3%, and some lose 33%, as you just said.
Mm-hmm.
But the smaller contractors, typically all the ones that have their name on the door, and it's them and a few people, if you ask them, they're pulling a profit until they start to try to scale, and then they fall into the same trap.
Yep.
The equipment's expensive. The guys or the girls take longer lunches than you think, and it doesn't take much to take a 10% profit and turn it into a 10% loss. There's not a lot of leeway there, for mismanagement. So I know, of course, why I'm using robotics in the private sector. But, obviously when we met, you got the Swazi, you have the left hand. What is it that interests campuses like Michigan State to get you guys interested in learning and experimenting with robotics?
So, a big thing is students and driving that to make sure you're kind of always, relevant, because you can't always do something the same way and expect, that it's not going to, you can let things pass you by, and there's going to be different things out there. There's definitely, what first kind of started to lean towards it was at one of these conferences at Milagma Concert, we kind of started hearing about all these other campuses and how they were saying, we can't run on these days because of ozone days, or, we have to use electric because we can't make noise. And it's just kind of like, we really never had an issue, because we don't use any gas equipment before 9 a.m. around any of residentials and so things like that. But it just started thinking, we better start doing something now before we're told we have to do something. So we've got to go through the trial and error of finding an equipment or something that works for us, that we can still get things done in a relatively, efficient time frame, but still being, innovation and being innovative is taking risks, and you just kind of got to take a risk, try to learn from that risk, if it was a mistake or if it was a success, and just keep on building upon that. You can't just decide, we're going all the way back. We're just doing everything, the way we used to 20 years ago. You got to keep moving forward. And because there is so much innovation, there's so many things out there. Like it's amazing the things that just for the lawn, the lawn industry and landscape industry that just keeps on getting, obviously there's a thirst for having that stuff out there. And with, the current issues with, labor and finding people to work for you, it's very interesting to think that we can have this maintained in this way. It's very interesting for people walking by and seeing it in a learning environment. With our left-hand robot, we got engineering students involved, and they worked for a semester and did a presentation on it, just trying to figure out new ways to make it work. That was kind of before it was even really a mower. But then we got the mow deck for it, and they started working with that. So, we found out a lot of things like, like that mower, for instance, you couldn't really run it on a dry field because the dust would cloud up the cameras and it wouldn't function correctly. So we found out we could really only run it irrigated without any big issues. So there was, but that was something that they came about with and they figured out. And that's the kind of thing, is just having that partnership with the people. The reason we're there is the students are there. There's no other reason. And so having that involvement with them and keeping things relevant as far as, phones and apps and all the things going on, just seeing how much that kind of, just that simple learning of everybody knows how to use a smartphone. Well, now we can use it to see how a lawn's being maintained, So, I mean, it's really putting it into a real world and having it in their hands that they can do these things. And this is how it's only going to escalate. So figuring out what we need before we're told we have to do it is a much easier process when you get into like having to do a full scale change.
Yeah. So how many years have you guys been doing automation now at Michigan State?
Not many. No. So we got the left hand. We tried an Echo. We had an Echo demo for a while. And then we brought the Husqvarnas in last year, 2 years ago. So very, very early on.
So what's been, tell me some success stories and tell me some fail stories. I mean, you told me the kind of failure story with left hand, and I mean, that doesn't make a difference anymore because Toro bought them out and that unit's retired, which I think for you, probably happy. For me, I'm a little chapped about it still, seeing how it's working out. But but then, some of these other units, you said you had the Echo unit, you make it sound like past tense. So what kept you from keeping the Echo unit,
So I think it was just a demo. And then, we tried it out in a couple different areas and it didn't really kind of work for, what we had. It was a good experiment in the demo, just knowing though that we had it in a student residential area and never got messed with. It always went out there and did its job. But, there's some of the hard parts with it now is, we've got employees and budgets and all these other things to pay attention to. And, the installs of some of the ones we currently have, even on Husqvarnas, either maybe they weren't done correctly or whatever, but it's kind of like, you find out like, hey, that thing's not running, And so now it's all of a sudden I'm managing this robot that I don't necessarily have all the knowledge on. So that, that definitely makes it difficult. But on the other end, with the left hand, there's one field, you actually walk the one field, the Dem Hall field there. It's right by the Sparty statue on campus. When that thing was mowing there, the left-hand robot was mowing, people would stop and take pictures of it constantly. Anytime I was there setting a program or getting going, people would talk to me about it. And, it's kind of like you can see the excitement level in that setting of people getting into. So I'm excited to see some mowers at Stripe. That'll be the next big thing for me because I don't really like the way they look like a Roomba. So I haven't seen that full effect of the carpet effect yet. And that's what I'd really like to see, as far as let's see it get to that point and then see it if I like it more kind of thing.
All right. So in full disclosure, I've got to say here, I didn't install your first Husqvarna. So
no,
I don't want anybody
listening
to this podcast to be like, what? Joe installed one of these. It wasn't us, wasn't AOS. And secondly, I mean, you're not going to experience that like carpet look unless it's installed properly and it's going out every day and it's cutting all the time. It's like, honestly, some days, if there were no travel restrictions, I would tell you need to come here and look at all the units we have around here installed properly. I mean, right now, I can tell you for the next month, I don't hardly even have to try to sell a robot lawnmower because people see our sign that we maintain a site and we've got the best looking grass in Northern Illinois, and people will just call and say, however you achieve that, I want that same scenario. But they have to go out every day. I mean, the worst thing for, as you said, the Roomba style lawnmower is when they go out every day, you don't notice the random mowing.
Yeah.
When they don't go out every day and you start to mow, it kind of looks like somebody had a few too many cocktails and there's little 8.5-inch cut pads and then you really realize, wow, that's only an 8.5-inch cutting disc. It's like those are when you actually realize what they are. So, hopefully, as our relationship evolves, I can prove these things out to Michigan State.